or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome to
Dave's.
That's that one. And Mackey's. That's this one. Shiny Side Out. That's right. On Revolution Radio for Revolution.radio. That's right. Coming to you from Australia.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. It's a continent that's sort of, under the equator. I know not much happens under the equator, I know, but there's
Bunker,
a continent.
under the bunker. That's all right.
There's a bunker, sure. Why not? Why not? Home to ideas, fresh, unadulterated, and conversations in the chat. The chat is full. We got lots of people that is good. Wonderful. Happy to hear that. There we go. I'm turning my fan off because it might interfere with my audio.
Couldn't hear it.
This is show. You couldn't know. Oh, that's good. Show number 678, 870, and 600. 678 shows. 678 Sundays. 678 weeks. We've been doing this. You can catch us on the air, on the line, all the time, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere. Really, anywhere, really. Mm-hmm. Or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Solaris has had a great show. I'm sure I missed it, but that's okay because the archives are free. And the archives, since they're free, can be used by anyone at any time.
I'll tell you that she had Miss B, Zoe Greystone. They were discussing dreams. Ooh.
We need to bring Solaris and Miss B back again for a chat.
We do.
That would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Look, yes, the archives are free, but what is not free is electricity. So if you can donate any kind of amount, any kind of currency, even crypto is good, maybe especially crypto, then that would be extremely helpful, as the station doesn't receive any money from anyone otherwise. There's no money coming in from the government. It'd be nice to get. It'd be cool, though, if it were that Donald Trump would be cutting it right now, so that's okay. But no, there's no money coming in other than from you, the much venerated listener. So if you can, please do, but maybe you can't. That's okay, because times are tough. What you can do, though, is tell people about the station. That's also good. Okay, so if you can do that, that would be brilliant. Radio. Now, this was a long bumper at the beginning. I don't think the bumper in the middle will be as long. And before we start broadcasting at you in anger, though, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave, that's...
I'm broadcasting from Dark and Joan country.
Thank you, sir. For myself, of course, the Iraq people. And we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Now...
Except... I'd like a longer discussion with, or at least a discussion, but let's make it a lengthy one, with those who are wishing to take over Mount Panorama. So that's a shame. Could be the end of motor racing at Mount Panorama. We don't know. So we'll see what happens. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Down with the takeovers. Down, I say. Bring out the pitchforks and torches. Where's an angry monk when you need it, huh?
Let's give them 1% of the takings and just be done with it. There you go. Sweet.
Let's give them
happy days.
Percentages. There you go. That's what happens. Maybe enlighten us to that in a second, because I have no idea what you're talking about. But look, hey, it's been there's no slow news week anymore. There just isn't. Just to give you a bit of an idea, though, what to expect today and over the coming weeks, we're going to talk about mind control. Mind control. Mind control features relatively heavily in our show on human experimentation. We're going to take a slightly different tack here, and I'm going to float a theory with all of you. Now, at this point, I want to outline that this is my theory, and Dave may or may not endorse what I'm going to say, but I'll leave that up to him, and this is for the second hour. But for now, well, like I said, it's never a slow news week. in Syria, things are hotting up where the Alawite minority, which Bashar al-Assad is a member of, and which was nominally in power during his family's reign, has now been attacked by the government troops now, and some 700 civilians of that Alawite minority were killed, which is what a human rights group is saying happened in Syria. So that's, even though when the rebels came in, the rebels, which are now the government, said they wouldn't do that. That has now obviously happened.
When have you? I'm just going to say, in any government, when have you ever believed anything they've ever said?
Oh, look, absolutely.
Sorry to tie it back to the government again.
And look, and I mean these hatreds. I mean, the Assads were in power there since independence, I think. Mm-hmm. Which I think came to Syria. I think I want to say 50s or 60s. I got to look it up, but a long time, right? That's a long time. And it's a well, it's not good, right? But I mean, they weren't the best custodians, if you will, of the country. You know, obviously favoring their own people, and now that's come to bite them, it is really a thing that is happening. It's a tit for tat, and again, Dave is right. You know, when could you ever believe anyone anywhere? That's absolutely true. Now, interestingly though, the cyclone that was meant to hit Brisbane here in Australia on the east coast was downgraded to a tropical low, which still brought rain and flooding, but not the destruction that we feared would happen. So that's a bit lucky, I guess, that we had that not happen. Obviously, that's always something, you know, because I mean that's something we could really do without. Thank you very much.
It was one of the media's most energetic news stories that ran for multiple days. I saw it in the predictions, in the software, in the modeling. I've got something on screen right now, and this is showing that its current location is about 200 k's inland. It's now a tropical low, but the mouse you can probably see on the screen is the course it took, and then it did a loop, and then it stayed here for a day and a half, just off the coast of Brisbane, and then just popped in, and now it's stationary again. And the wind, the colorization here, you'll see a little thing on the side. It's nearly 90 kilometre-hour winds, up to 100 kilometre-hour winds already still remaining on the coast, with a lot of rain still embedded in that. And the rain is now going south. So the media had a field day about this storm. And one of the things that impressed me the most was pre-placing. Not like California or Lahaina, but really doing a great job. I think we do disasters really well. We really do.
Yeah. And we used to do them a lot better, but we're still doing well.
I know. Success is a success or unsuccessful out of the picture here. Just pre-placing electricians, power grid specialists, pole specialists, the SES, as we know them in New South Wales, who have chainsaws and they'll help people. They had ambulances that are made, they're brand new, by the way. They're made for going through deep water, not regular street, dry weather ambulances. These were military-styled ambulances, but they're very good. But sadly, in the terrain that we have around in New South Wales, northern New South Wales, it's usually the road's really only one lane in either direction. It's very narrow. If you had two Humvees, one of them has their wheels in the dirt on the shoulder, if you know what I mean. And the two troop transports, because they had the military on the ground, ready to go, and more coming in, and as they came in, there was a collision or an avoidance of a collision, causing a rollover and an injury of nearly 30 troops. And we call them diggers here. It's an old Australian term for, you know, digging the trenches, right? But and latrines. But sadly there were no fatalities, but that's a really hard thing to have to deal with, especially during the other emergency. Now, I was watching Queensland premiers, New South Wales premiers, everyone talking up all of this in the lead up to it. And thankfully, the storm, the cyclone, only got to Cat 2. It's about almost 100 mile an hour winds, between 140 and maybe 100 and almost like 155 or something, just shy of 160 kilometers an hour, which is 100 miles an hour. So it got to that, and then it just wouldn't assemble itself properly. There was wind shear halfway up at about maybe 10 Ks, so it couldn't get to the 18,000, whatever it is. It couldn't get to the crazy heights. All the mass was being left, junked out to the side, ripped out of it. So it couldn't really get itself to a Cat 5, which is great. Really happy about the fact that it was a soft cyclone. Storm surge and beach erosion. Beach erosion, it's crazy. There's something like 40 meters of beach that's gone from where the promenade is out to where the low tide mark is. It's gone. There just isn't any anymore. 3 to 4 meters deep of sand is gone. It'll come back. It'll come back. Because that's what happens. The sand moves around. If you were able to put, say, colorized sand, say you did this en masse, and you used, I don't know, glass beads or something, you put them anywhere on Australia's coast, they migrate up the coast, they migrate down the coast, just depending on how the swell goes. And that's great. So, the storm, because it meandered, it did a U-turn, then it did a donut, it did a loop, and then it stalled for a day. It gave everyone the ability to be able to prepare. Sandbags. Whoa, I think there was 4 million sandbags or something. There was only 4.5 million houses or people, 4.5 million people that were going to be negatively impacted by it. The lifeguard towers, we don't call them lifeguards, but our lifeguard towers, a couple of those fell into the ocean because where they used to be was on 5 meters or 4 meters of sand on the normal beach, and now that's gone, and they're falling in. There's stairways and all this, it's all gone. We still have beaches closed, and there's still a bunch of warnings. Now, I watched near to, because this is where my dad lives, right? And I was up there for months, and he's safe, it's all good. He lost some power to his house for a little while. The neighbours got him jerry-rigged up there. But Lismore, which is inland, like 30 k's inland from the coastline, is where we saw some of that crazy flooding 2 years ago.
That's right.
Like 22 meters or 26 meters or whatever it was of flood height. Good grief.
1,000 millimeters. I love it when they say that. 1,000 millimeters. Well, it's a meter of flooding. Just say a meter.
That's right.
Please.
That's what the whole metric system is designed around. Being able to simplify how you discuss something.
Seriously.
Right? But anyway, so Lismore, they said on the news today, usually going from about a day's behind in meteorological terms. They said, oh no, there's no problems. It's all good. They've got a levee on the riverbank, and every time it floods, it usually breaks the levee. It doesn't break it, but I mean, it exceeds the height of the levee, and it floods the town, and it's terrible, right? And I agree, it's terrible. But they've said, oh, you know, we've now just we can release people back. It's okay, they can go back, and just be wary. We have all these really weird warning levels, and we have a watch and act. That means you just keep an eye out, keep an eye peeled, and escape when you can, which is great. But this one's just being wary. That's before watch and act. Now, I'm watching the rainfall predictions, and the rainfall is heading directly down to Lismore. And they're expecting about 100 mils, according to this site that is, it's a very good site. It's able to very accurately plot everything all at once, and has it sensors everywhere and inputs and feeds. It's just tremendous. So I don't think Lismore is out of the woods yet. I don't want it to breach the levee, but it's quite possible that it will. And I'm going to stay on the err on the side of caution here and say, if anyone at all listens to this from the area, then maybe have one escalation point higher than what you hear in the media do, just to be sure. Because we saw entire two-story houses go underwater. And I've been up there, and they're not even, they're abandoned now because the people didn't have insurance. One of the big things that happened in Lahaina and California in the fires was that the insurance company wouldn't pay out. In Lahaina and in California, they'd removed fire protection automatically. Just, oh no, we're taking that off. There's too much high risk, so because of the high risk, we can't afford to pay it. So to put us in a good financial position, if there is a fire, we're just removing the coverage.
Does that mean there won't be any fires? Oh no, there will be fires.
No, they're probably going to be. Look,
you're just screwed. That's all.
Our model says good luck with that. Yeah, we're gonna go up to Canada and see if we can get some more Canadian clients on board. Oh no, but they had fires too, sir. Where could we go? Where can we sell our product to?
Gaza. I hear there's going to be a resort developed there.
There is, but the concrete doesn't burn so much.
Sweet.
The rubble doesn't burn. I've seen rubble
and even if it does, who cares?
So I had to say that, and I've got my dog's going crazy because my daughter's coming home. The northern rivers flooding. The flooding is already in the low-lying areas apart from the levee. So this is what's being trapped by the levee and not allowed to go into the river. So live by the levee, die by the levee is really an important notice here. So because you have a levee to protect you from the flooding river, anything that's being protected by it can flood on its own. And the water can't escape because you're protecting yourself from the low-lying river where it would all normally drain into. It's hilarious. Anywho, so I do hope that with all this and the media hype and I've never seen so many on-the-spot reporters. It's like watching an American newscast when Florida's going to get hit by a hurricane. The weatherman out there, or weather person out there, I should say. There was a lady who was getting doused in that ick foam from the sea in the wind. It was just going sideways in 100-kilometre-hour winds and just slapping onto her. And I don't want to show the footage because it's a copyright strike to do that. But I'm astounded that they had, and I'm pleased for the media, because they had something they could talk about that wasn't Trump, wasn't an election, wasn't our deteriorating economy, and it wasn't about the banks, and it wasn't about youth crime, because that's on the rise everywhere. I don't care where you live. It's terrible. In Australia, this is the segue going back to I'll leave you with government. So in Australia, youth crime is going up so fast, wages are dropping of the people who are conducting criminal activities, i.e. a kid stealing, like a 13 or 14-year-old stealing a car and crashing it with full of their friends and then running from the scene. Those people, the ages are getting younger, and it's disturbing that that's what they've chosen to do, because that's not the end of their criminal journey. But in Australia, we've got this, you do an adult crime, you do the adult time. And I think maybe if more parts of the world saw this, is there any psychological reason that, is GTA high on their list of games that they've played? I'm not blaming video games here, but in the creation of somebody, creating a platform of stability in their life, which used to be the family unit, now the percentage of time that they spend doing something, I'm sounding old now, I swear, what is the cause of them making a decision that is so poor in our society, so devastating for the people that they're doing these things against? I really wonder. I'm going to say it's the government's fault, but I'm not sure that that's the truth, Mackie.
Look, it's a really simple, well, it's not simple, but it's a fairly transparent challenge that we face here in Australia. It's faced by many countries that have First Nations people as part of a significant minority population. Okay, and the key issue is disenfranchising minority groups. And there are many ways this has happened. If you conquer a land, you've got two options. I know this is going to sound really harsh, right? There are two options. Actually, three options, but the third option is a non-starter, because if you took that one, you wouldn't have conquered the land in the first place. Okay, let's talk about the non-starter. You just go away again. Oh, there are people here already. Let's just leave. Okay, that's the non-starter. The other one is, well, you impose your rule. You're probably you're going to have a lot of violence that is going to be perpetrated against the original population, and that's where we are. That's the path that most countries have chosen for themselves. Because again, this is not something that just happened. People made choices, people acted in certain ways, people passed laws, and here we are. We've got significant minority populations of indigenous people living a half-life in many ways. The other option is that you kill everybody. Okay, you kill the entire indigenous population completely.
Well, they did that in Tasmania.
Well, yeah, so they say. And look, is that a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. But what it does do is avoid all problems that we're facing today. Right? So clearly they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to kill everybody, even though they gave it a pretty good shake. And we're now faced with and this is the problem, Dave, is multi-generational.
Yes.
Okay. So a lot of these perpetrators that you speak of are of indigenous descent. Not all of them, obviously, but quite a few. And the problem is that their tribal, well, I don't want to say tribal, but their familial or the family structures the traditional ones don't really exist anymore, right? The quickest way to devalue a culture is to have it live on social welfare, right? You take away purpose, you take away achievement, you take away their right to live and feel good about themselves, because that's a big part of existing, right?
Yeah.
And then we've taken that away, not just in Australia, but in the States and in other places as well. So it's multi-generational, right? So, and what do these kids do? Well, they don't see a future for themselves. In Australia, the indigenous population is horrendously overrepresented in the prison system. And I mean horrendously. The percentage is
as does the African American population in prison in America. Yeah.
Same, exactly the same. In fact, yeah, pretty much exactly the same situation. And then, of course, the second group would be Hispanics in the States, and then because most of them were killed, the indigenous, First Nations tribes of America come in a distant third. But these are the same problems, same issues that you face everywhere. And the only solution is to truly bring reform. I mean, the last reform was 20 years ago. Sorry. The last report. There was a report, a Royal Commission, where I looked into the death and custody situation, especially in the top end in Northern Australia, and it came up with a raft of improvements, or suggestions, I should say. Very few of these suggestions were actually realized. Okay, and we're scratching our head wondering why things haven't gotten better. Right? Now, the perpetrators are getting younger, to Dave's point, yeah, because if you don't have a future, right? If you're already stamped as a potential criminal, if people treat you differently, if there really isn't anything for you to look forward to building your life, for example, etc. Maybe your family structure is broken down. Maybe your parents or grandparents were part of the Stolen generation, so there was a rift that was created between you and your traditional ways. All of these things add up and leave us exactly where we are. I would start by looking again at that report, the Royal Commission report, and implementing the recommendations that were given then. You can have another one if you want, but I reckon you're going to come up with the exact same stuff. That's a huge issue. But you mentioned a few other things there as well, Dave. And the biggest problem that we have right now, apart from, of course, the youth crime and all that, that's unfortunate, but it's just an expression of the wider issues that we have. So forget the fact that a lot of these perpetrators are, in fact, indigenous. There are other nationalities involved as well, of course. And that is an expression overall of what I just said, but more so of the economic situation we find ourselves in. We're not in a boom economy. Jobs are not abundant. People are not making a lot of money, and the money they make is not enough to live. This is called the cost of living crisis, and nothing's being done to alleviate it. In fact, and I hate to say it, I'm not hating on the guy, but you got to call a spade, okay? The economic measures that Trump is putting in place he's signing into existence, are now and will, for the foreseeable future, have dire consequences for the American economy. That's just what's going to happen. And as an extension, those consequences will be felt globally. It might lead to a recession, maybe even a depression, because you can't. And look, I need to be explained. It's not any one thing. It's not that the tariffs are bad. It's not that a whole bunch of people, hundreds of thousands of people in the States are being fired. It's not that there's this trade war now looming with China, maybe Canada, Mexico, Europeans. It's also not about America withdrawing from, NATO maybe, or UN, or support for the Ukraine, and Turkey and Poland picking up the mantle, in France and Great Britain trying to get in bed with Canada from a trade perspective. It's not any one of those things. It is all of those things. Because what's the one thing, Dave, that a market hates?
Change. No,
and
stability.
Uncertainty. Yeah, instability. That's right. Market hates instability. Yes. And if you have uncertainty, look, speculators like to be certain as to what their investment will yield. You don't want to put your money into something and lose it, right? That's the human nature. Let me give you an example. In the stock market world, let's say you're running a company, a fictitious company. It's not fictitious, but let's say it's fictitious. Company X, right? And I'm not talking about Twitter. Company X says it'll shrink over the next 3 years, because that's what's going to happen. The situation of the economy is what it is, and they're not going to win contracts. Yeah. So they're going to say they're going to shrink, and they're going to say we're going to shrink by this percentage, and every quarter they're going to say this is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, if they are correct in their prediction, the analysts are going to love them. Not only that, the analysts will believe them when they say we're going to grow. So this fictitious company says we're going to shrink for 3 years, but in year number 4 we are going to grow by X percent. And the market will look at what they predict, and they're right, because what it means is that this company X knows its place in the market, understands the market, sees its place, and can predict what will happen. Mm-hmm. That's very, very important for the stock market, right? So even if you're shrinking, you can inspire confidence in the market if you're shrinking by a quantity that you have predetermined and pre-communicated. Okay. If you're a company that is making money, but is constantly wrong about its predictions about how much money it's making, the market is going to hate you. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's exactly what happens. The market will not support you. The analysts will not support you because you look like you don't know what you're doing and you seem to be falling into money. I mean, it's lucky, right? But there's no strategy. There's no ability to predict what's happening to you as an entity, and you don't seem to understand the market because, while you're making money, you're predicting it wrong. You're predicting it wrong. It's okay. The market will forgive you once or twice, but if you continuously get your forecasts wrong, the market will punish you. Right? They just won't believe you anymore, and your stock price will suffer accordingly. So what Donald Trump has introduced into the world now is a high degree of uncertainty, right? Because we don't know what he's going to do. He puts tariffs up, then he pauses tariffs, then there'll be tariffs of 10%, then China's at 25%, then he's going to fire 100,000 people, and then the next day he's trying to hire them back because firing them was a mistake. And Elon Musk is just running around like a headless chicken, talking about things that we know are not true. The savings that are being touted as being real are not. Right? And still they're talking about these numbers where people that are 150 years old are getting Social Security. It's a programming error. Okay? If you actually research it and understand what's happening, these people are not actually getting paid. Okay? It just happens it's really old software they're using, really old code. Okay? I think it's not Fortran they're using, it's COBOL or maybe even. I look, but it's really old software that is being used, and the savings figures or even the so-called fraud, at least in that particular instance, is not correct, right? So there's no one lying in their pockets with a 300-year-old pension check. It's just not true. So it is this problem of uncertainty that markets don't like. Now, personally, I don't like the stock market at all. I think the stock market is an abomination, and we should do away with it, because what the stock market does is take away value from companies, irrespective of how well your company is going, like I said before. Irrespective of what you're doing, if the stock market thinks your stock is worth nothing, you can actually bankrupt a company that is doing well. Okay? If it's listed. You can do that. That's the power of the stock market. So I don't like it. I think the stock market is evil and should be burned down to the ground.
Because it's full of leeches. I mean, parasites.
There's no value that is added through the stock market to the economy. I'm talking about none, zero. The people in Wall Street make nothing. They are parasitical little traders in their little disheveled little shops, pushing around pieces of paper, giving them imaginary value. So no, I have no time for these people. And billionaires, same thing, right? You know how I feel about those people. So that's what's happening. So Donald Trump, with his flurry of activity and reversal of activity, right? That's the thing here, because the market likes activity. Activity is good, right? But if you do something and then you flip-flop, and you do something else and you flip-flop again, and the market goes, well, I don't know what's going on here. Does he know what he's doing? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? The economy is very sensitive, the world economy, right? And if you take hundreds of thousands of people out of critical roles, like we're talking about, this is my favorite, nuclear maintenance engineers. This is what Elon Musk did. He took his 20-something Twitter people, like young kids that are really good at coding, right? And he's going around all the departments and sending out emails and whatnot. But these kids, and they're kids, I'm sorry to say, and Elon Musk also has no idea, because I don't think he's ever actually had a real job in his life. He comes from money. Okay, you have to understand that people that come from money don't really understand the realities of the world. They don't ever work. They probably never had to clean their own toilets.
I want to go back in time, Mackie, and make it that I came back from money.
Brother, you and me both. Now, I came from money, but unfortunately, the two world wars put paid to that.
That's it.
Yes, it's gone now. But so they're going around, but they're making decisions that they don't understand. and they don't understand the consequences of those decisions. So again, let's go back to these nuclear maintenance engineers. So they must have looked at, I don't know, a job description or maybe a certain job level, and they go, oh, why do we need all these engineers? There seem to be however many there were, right? And I don't think we need them. I mean, these nuclear stockpiles, they just sit there anyway, right? No one is going to use them, so why are we doing people looking after them? Makes no sense. Not at all understanding the science or the just the simple maintenance implication. If you're 20-something, you never had to maintain anything. Maybe your bicycle, right? But unless you own a house or a flat, or you're responsible for someone else, or even a car, right? That you understand, I have to maintain this car. I can't just drive it, right? I actually have to take it in for repairs and maintenance, get the oil filter changed. Unless you understand this, life will always be a mystery to you. Okay, so they go in and say, yeah, we don't need these nuclear engineers and maintenance engineers. So they fired them. Now, these are people that are maintaining the U.S. nuclear stockpile with a very hands-on kind of approach. Like these are the people that actually physically maintain these weapons.
Just for those people who don't know what it is, when the nuclear disarmament treaty was signed, which has now been abandoned by most countries, that all it was dismantle your nuclear warheads from your missiles and put them aside. That's all it was. And so in some cases, some countries, vast stockpiles were thieved or robbed, and their accounting wasn't very good. And in the other cases, they need to also be ready to be reassembled if you need them. You've got to think about that for a minute. And I'm going to leave you with this. I think when they just see a guy sitting in a rickety chair and he's 1,000,000 years old, I think there's some words on the parchment kind of way to understanding what it means to do their job. Does that make sense, Mackie?
Oh, it makes sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to Muskie's little boys, but yes.
No, that's right, yeah.
And that's the problem, though, right? I mean, this is why I'm worried about the future. Once the Gen X's or baby boomers are out of the workforce, and the only thing are left are, Muskie's little henchmen. Well, yeah, because there's no insight. They didn't have to work their way up. They never had. See, this is actually a problem that is bigger than that even. For decades now, in fact, we have sent all our entry-level positions overseas because it's cheaper, right? It's cheaper. So the US, Australia, large parts of Europe don't have entry-level positions for any industry.
That's right.
Right? Or at least not like they used to anyway. So, but if you don't have entry-level positions, how do you build up the skills from a workforce that will retire at some point? I mean, someone has to take over your stuff at some point.
Planning, yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe not all of it, because something's changed, things get automated. Sure, that's all goodness.
I know you can go to West Point, Mickey, and just earn the job because, I don't know, people.
Yeah. So, is
this not the same argument, Mickey, as being born into money, where the father, let's say, established a company, made it totally successful, and the company's success is only 2 generations from failure?
Mm-hmm.
Because the direct person that knew that their father worked their butt off to make it, and were abandoned as children because their parent worked very hard to establish a business and made it strong, it's all good, and the next person who gets it just goes, wow, just make it keep running, and the next person in generationally has not a clue about how it operates.
Of course,
how to talk to people, because all they've had is wealth their entire life.
Well, and that is one of the biggest disincentives to do any work at all. And it is what's happening, like I said earlier, to the indigenous people. If they're on social welfare, why work, right? And all your pride, the sense of achievement, anything that would make you a complete and satisfied and happy person, that goes out the window. It's the same with rich kids, right? And I've seen it. I've seen it with friends of mine. I've seen it, all around. Where if you do this to your children, you're doing them a massive disservice. But to go back to my example, so now we are in a situation where the market doesn't believe anything Donald Trump is saying, right? Because he has flip-flopped too many times, and his decisions have actually been detrimental to the American economy. Again, let's look at tariffs just for a second here, right? All the goods that are coming into America, and America is a net importer of goods, right? That's what Donald Trump is referring to. It's a net trade imbalance in the favor of everybody else as opposed to the U.S. Because America is importing a whole bunch of stuff. Now, the reason they're importing a whole bunch of stuff because nothing is made there anymore. Now, American companies made the decision at some point in the past to move their manufacturing centers or operational bases or whatever it might be somewhere else that is cheaper. That decision was made by, corporations that are now multinational, but probably had the beginning in the States. No one forced them to. That's what they decided to do, right? So it's not China's fault that people came to manufacture in China. It's just cheaper. Right? It's cheaper because the standard of living is lower. Same with India. Same with most of the third world. Right? Plus less worker protections. It's ideal. Okay, so let's be clear. China did not wage a labor war against America. American companies decided to go somewhere else to manufacture, right? Because of profit. I want profit. Thank you very much. Give me profit. Now, Donald Trump is not an industrialist. Donald Trump is a property developer, okay? So he never really offshored or outsourced his work because his work is fundamentally building buildings in America. That's his job, right? So he's got a very different mindset to someone like Elon Musk even, or Mark Zuckerberg, or any industrialist for that matter, HP, Hewlett Packard, etc. Right? So he's punishing now China and India and Mexico and Canada, etc., for producing goods cheaper than America could and selling them to Americans. Now, who do you think is going to pay for those tariffs? Not Canada, not Mexico, not China, in fact, the reason they're not going to pay for it is because they're not the ones making all those things. It is corporations that are making all those things. And they're usually multinational corporations, okay? And they will pass any price increase that they suffer onto the consumer. So if there's a tariff on steel, which is used in the manufacturing of whatever, or if there's a tariff on cars or a tariff on whatever, the American consumer is going to pay more because the tariffs are going to be passed on. And it will take time to rebuild the manufacturing capacity that America used to have, if it will ever happen. It will take time. So again, if Donald Trump had gone ahead and built his capacity first, right? Let's build the factories first. Let's give incentives to Apple to build their factories here. Let's do all of that first, right? And then, if they still choose to import, right, from somewhere else, then I'm going to slap them with tariffs because I'm already manufacturing here, right? But that is not likely to happen on a large scale because American labor is too expensive. So, is Donald Trump driving to make American labor cheaper, Dave? Will he make it? I mean, if he does that, the standard of living in the States is going to drop.
That's true.
Right?
Look, I hope because the let's call it the Trump rhetoric is just, it's an open
it's not rhetoric anymore.
No.
These things are happening.
I know. But what he says and what is, I suppose, argued forward is something that I'm like, me, Mekki. I try to stay in the middle, and I try to watch everything from from the safety of my armchair with my popcorn. And if the original words that we use to promote it are still what is fueling the tariffs, for instance, then there are easy ways out of the tariffs. So it's I think it's up to those responsible in government to put those protections in place. Now, I know the fentanyl and the illegal immigration across the Canada border was the reason behind it, or at least the one that was promoted as the reason for that tariff. And it's an easily arguable thing that Trudeau, I've been watching his rhetoric, or once again rhetoric, saying, well, we won't have this, it's blah, blah, blah. Well, apparently all you have to do is stop the fentanyl and stop the illegal immigration, and those tariffs by rule get removed. So just do that. So, and that's,
well,
in Mexico, they've got, I think, 100,000 troops, and they've built 10,000 places and storing people and
10,000.
processing 10,000, whatever. Yeah.
But see, this is also, look, none of this is actually the real reason. Okay.
That's why
Trump,
I said
Trump doesn't give a hoot.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually give a hoot about the border. Okay, you have to understand what he wants. And in fact, the second hour, I'm going to float a theory of mine, which is actually getting traction now in the real world as well. So, but ultimately, I think we have to understand that Donald Trump doesn't really have a plan, right? He's got a few ideas, right, which he's floating, and his I think his cabinet and his people are trying feverishly to put sense behind it and actually make it work, right? But he just has his ideas, and some of these ideas are completely harebrained, okay? And again, if he wants to destabilize the market, tick in a box, done, right? If he wants to push us closer to the Great Reset, tick in a box, he's doing that as well, okay?
Because that's happening. See all the things he's doing as leading us into the Great Reset.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and then there's this connections to Epstein, which we'll talk about in the second hour,
mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden things become a lot clearer as to what's happening in the world in reality, because whatever you think the world is going to look like, whatever you think Trump promised you, throw it out the window completely. Okay, this will not be good for you guys in America. I'm not in America. I'm not there. So. There will be repercussions in Australia. There will be some, economic impact here, absolutely. But I'm not there with you guys. You are there, and I've watched this congressman give a presentation in Congress, which was not watched by very many people, but he outlines all the things that are happening. And one of the biggest issues that you guys are having is conflict of interest. Elon Musk took a contract away from Verizon and put his own company in. Now, this is the very definition of conflict of interest. Elon Musk was looking at the department, right, and he said, I don't like this contract with Verizon. I think my company should do this contract. You don't think that's conflict of interest? Really? Maybe you've drank the Kool-Aid, but we're going to talk about mind control in the second hour, and we'll discuss. Maybe it's not your fault. Maybe you've been subliminally influenced, but like I said, we're going to talk about that. But there are things happening right now where people are enriching themselves on the back of the American people. They are. It's a fact. And the middle class, the people struggling with several jobs, living from paycheck to paycheck and not well, are the ones that will pay the price for Trumponomics. Okay, that's what I'm going to call it now. Trumponomics, Trump economics. Because you can't play flip-flop like this with the market. You can't. Especially when they see, okay, you have one idea, you go forward, okay, well, we can live with that, but then you flip-flop. So what that means is you didn't actually think about it. When Elon Musk went in to fire all these people that he then tried to rehire, he didn't think about it. Nobody thought about the impact. There was a huge stink in the White House when the guy in charge of air traffic control was told by Musk to reduce his number of air traffic controllers. Massive stink that just happened recently. And Elon Musk, I think, got his hand slapped by Trump saying that's nonsense. Well, we can't do that. That doesn't work, right? And then Trump wants the air traffic controllers to be all Harvard, Yale, and MIT graduates. They all have to be geniuses, right? Okay. If I'm a genius, I'm not sure I want to be an air traffic controller, but hey, what do I know? So
the only thing you shouldn't have is a nervous disposition.
Nervous disposition. It's a real problem. What we're seeing right now is action without a plan. And action without a plan will lead to disaster, invariably. If you don't understand what will happen when you do something, if you're lucky, nothing bad is going to happen, right?
Wow,
if
you sound like an architect.
But 9 times out of 10, and I've been in the industry now, working now, oh Jesus, for 40 years I've been working, right? And every time something wasn't planned out properly, the outcome was not great. The outcome was not great. All right, so as long as we're clear on that. It's a real challenge right now, and this is for you guys in America. I mean, it's your back pocket. Has the price of X come down? Because there will come a time in the Trump presidency when he can no longer blame Biden. Was Biden a great president? No, Biden should never have run for that office ever. But again, you guys again in America, you voted him in, right? So. I mean, I'm flabbergasted, and maybe it's engineered this way.
There's music.
All right, see you after the break.
And the price of eggs have not come down. Now, after the break, stay with us. We're going to talk about mind control. This is part 1 in the series. So take the time to donate, and we'll be back in a minute.